This week, I'm replaying in my head that moment when I got laid off at 57 years old. It still feels surreal, but it also is kind of like the big bang of emotions. All of these emotions hit when you get that notification that you're being laid off. Additionally, who you are changes. Your identity immediately changes. This is what I want to cover in today's video. This is Retired or Rehired, and our goal in these videos is to focus on short snippets about living in between being retired and being unemployed, and what that means for us that are kind of later in our career journey and how to handle it. So today, let's dive into the emotional and identity part of it. A little bit about my backstory. I'd been doing the same job for 20 years. 3 years prior, the company was acquired by a larger company that was equity backed. The larger company didn't focus on what my business unit did. I had this business unit that I built from zero to multiple software products, thousands of users, hundreds of customers, and 50 to 70% profit margins. So it was quite a journey, and it was quite an opportunity to have created this job. It was almost like in joining the company 20 years ago, I got to create my own job. Now, I still had to do the initial work when we were building the company to be able to pay for this, but once it got going, it was everything that I loved doing, and that's the reason I stuck around there for so long, even though in today's market I probably shouldn't have. But I don't know it would make a difference today. The writing was on the wall, though, that my department would be changed, would be left to attrit at some point, and I would be let go as part of that. During my tenure there, I had trouble getting appropriate raises for my team. I had a senior person leave and hired a new person and tried to get that person a promotion and a raise for over a year. Again, ran into brick walls. I was told that my salary was out of whack for how little they pay their people of similar titles. And during this time, over 3 years, my manager in one-on-one meetings spent a total, at most, of 4 hours with me. Divide that up over 3 years. So I was absolutely going to be let go from this job. I'd watched my coworkers get let go, but I knew how this company worked. I knew the equity partners were the game. I knew the next step was for them to get bought by a bigger team of equity partners. And when that happened, turned out to be when I got let go. So the numbers look good, but now let's cut salaries, figure out what we don't need anymore. And after 20 years, I got that meeting on my calendar, that 15-minute meeting. Let's catch up, where you know what they're catching up on. So while I was on the meeting, I texted to my wife, I'm getting whacked today, so that we could start processing it. Fortunately, I was given severance, and I had unemployment to draw from, because in my state, severance is payment for past work, so you can still collect unemployment for a period of time. And since the writing had been on the wall, we built up financial reserves to be able to handle all this and to be able to fill that gap between 57.5 and 59.5 without having the rule of 55 for 401k plans so you can draw early to fall back on. So what does this do to you? What do you feel when this happens? There's the initial shock, right? Just deer in the headlights, kind of, oh my God, they're doing it to me. And even if you know it's coming, because your small company's been letting go of a handful of people, or your big company's been letting go of tens of thousands of people, you know it's happening. But when it happens, it hurts. And there's a series of emotions, but there's also your identity that gets changed. The first thing people ask when you meet them for the initial time is, what do you do for a living? What are your skills, right? And if you're unemployed, do you really do that anymore? What do you do? And if you're older, are you retired or unemployed? Are you on this spectrum? If you're having to update your financial information, maybe for credit information or bank information, what's your salary now? Is it what it used to be, or is it zero? If you're withdrawing from savings, that's not really earned income, so is that really a salary? All these questions about the things that have defined you for the past decades as you've worked now are meaningless. So there's a scramble. You get through the shock, and then next might be fear. Can we make it through this? Will we lose everything we've spent decades building? Will I be able to find another job if I need another job? What will I do? What will that job look like? Will they want to hire someone this age? So the fear builds into anxiety, and the anxiety builds into, I'm going to be worrying about this, right? I'm going to not sleep at night because I'm replaying moments in my head that could have made a difference or things I could have done differently in my life. But really, all that's outside of your control. About 50% of people getting near retirement age don't have a choice on when they retire. They get retired. And sometimes it's by the company, as it was in many cases, and my case too. And sometimes it's by life. Maybe you get ill. Maybe your spouse gets ill, or you have a family member that gets ill. So these things happen. So we have to be prepared for them. But that doesn't mean they're not without their emotional baggage. So we've talked about the shock and the fear building into anxiety. And next comes anger. The how dare they do this to me? I was their best employee, or I had a unique skill, or I had been there for so long and dealt with so much. Anger really isn't a productive emotion either, but you need to work through it. You need to allow yourself to have it in a productive way. For me, I had built this department from scratch. I had built the software products from scratch. The software products were like additional children that I had grown and nurtured and sent out into the world to our clients. And to have that taken away from me, good or bad, there was so much of me in those software products because I had worked on my own, I had worked with clients, and we had built these things. We had birthed these software products. So there's kind of that anger that this is being stolen from you. Now, ultimately, you'll realize you got paid a salary during that time, and it's really everything you built on their dime is theirs anyways. But these emotions need to go through a grieving process. And then there's the vision, right? How does this affect your vision for the future? Where are you financially? How is this going to manifest itself on what you do tomorrow, next week, next year, and in 5 years? Everything you're feeling is valid. And if you're having trouble working through it, start with a partner, a friend, a mentor, or a spouse. If you still can't get through it, obviously seek counseling, because this is a process you need to go through from beginning to end. You are going to need to redefine your identity after this. And for myself, in between the spectrum of retired or rehired, I would like to find another job. I'm still very capable mentally, and I don't know I want to sit around the house. However, I've been coming into acceptance that I may not find another job. So now, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for purpose and identity? For this channel, Gen X Third Act, we have the Gen X Trio, which is financial strength, mental purpose, and physical energy. We need to nurture all three of those buckets. So what am I going to do now to nurture that? How am I going to move beyond these emotions, especially if I can't find a new job? Well, it may be that I am going to find new mental purpose. I am going to work through this with help from friends or counseling, but I'm also going to take up new interests, new hobbies. Maybe there's stuff you've been wanting to do that you just haven't had time for. For myself, YouTube has become a great way to pour myself into new things. Next on my hit list for this is learning to play piano. I'll never be great at it, but in preparation for this phase of life, I had bought an inexpensive electric piano and have the online lessons and everything set up to start that. So that's one of the other things. So finding new purposes in your life helps rebuild who you are, helps rebuild that identity, helps you move on from these emotions, which again are all valid emotions. There's many other facets that need to be cared for too in the Gen X third act trio. And that will include financial components, physical components, and we'll cover those in future videos. So if you have things that you want to take up in this period, in this zone where you're trying to decide who you are, or if you have emotions that you're working through, feel free to post in the comments. We can build community that way. Also, if you like this journey and you want to be part of it, like and subscribe to the Gen X Third Act channel. You'll be notified when new videos come out on longer form topics, and then when these retired or rehired videos come out to help you work through this process together. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And as always, I appreciate you.